If you enjoy these programs, please subscribe, like this video, and share it with others. Shalom. I understand why an atheist might not read it. Maybe there's a reason why a Buddhist might not read it. But why would someone who believes in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, why wouldn't they read a holy book? In truth, every failed Messiah, everyone, was rejected. Pay careful attention to the Hebrew Bible and test every and any claim in light of the Jewish scriptures. That has to be your standard.
Yes, my name is Nick, and I am in Tampa, Florida. My question is, in the Tanakh, does it ever prophesy about a second coming of a Messiah? Because a lot of Christians say that what the Messiah, Jesus, did not do, he will come back and fulfill in a second coming. Is there any evidence of that in the Tanakh anywhere? Thanks.
This is where Jesus doesn't have to feel lonely at all. He has so much company. There are so many people who claim to be the Messiah, or that claim was made for them. And what they all had in common, Jesus included, is that they were to fulfill all the prophecies outlined in Tanakh for the Messiah, very striking prophecies, somehow in a second coming. You know, after all, everyone who claims to be the Messiah died. And, of course, none of the prophecies outlined clearly, explicitly in the Hebrew Scriptures were fulfilled. What are those prophecies? Well, the most important event that will occur in the final redemptive stage, all the nations will have a knowledge of Hashem, and they will all worship Him in unison, with one besofa brura, in a pure speech, of one ideology, where the knowledge of God will cover the world as the water covers the sea. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 14, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 9. In fact, I'd say this to you. If this is a subject, this is a topic that's important to your neshama, all you have to do really is read Isaiah chapter 11. That's all you have to do. Just to put down whatever you're doing. It's an epic chapter, as you can only imagine, and all Abrahamic religions are very aware, they're cognizant, that this chapter is completely there as a monument for all generations to know precisely what will happen when the Mashiach comes. So it's really easy. Like, don't you want to know, like, what's in the mind of God? You know, people ask me, how do you know what God thinks? Well, because we have Tanakh. That's the point of it. Tanakh is not just meant to adorn coffee tables. It really, we're supposed to read it and fill our minds with it. And the testimony of God is trustworthy. It restores the soul. Eidus Hashem ne'emana. All of this, just any part of the Hebrew Scriptures will make the foolish wise. His sovereignty will be from one end of the world to the other, Zechariah chapter 9, verse 10. The Mashiach himself will engage the nations, and they will respond positively to him, so much so that they will drop their differences and drop their weapons and turn all those armaments into implements of agriculture. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn of war anymore. Another epic chapter, Isaiah chapter 2, just the first 5 verses. So all you have to do is read the first 5 verses. And unlike some parts of Isaiah, these are really easy chapters. Anyone reading those chapters, you'll know exactly what's going on. There's nothing ambiguous. It's not like it hints to something. It's not like there's some story in Genesis which foreshadows. No, none of that. Just plain and clear. And why? Why does that have to be plain and clear? So that anyone could have a relationship with Hashem, right? A relationship with God cannot be reserved only for people with high IQ and who go to college for a long time. It has to be very accessible, just like the physical sustenance that we need to survive. What do you really need? Water and plants, durable plants, right? You can just wheat is a really durable plant. It can grow pretty much anywhere. It won't grow in the Sahara, but it'll grow pretty much everywhere. Potatoes, these are not complicated things. Okay? So the building of a third temple, the final temple, the Messianic temple that will stand forever, where does it say that? Well, that's how Ezekiel 37 comes to a close. The last three passages tell us that when the sanctuary will sit in your midst in Jerusalem, then the nations will know that I am Lord. In fact, the unused blueprints of the Messianic temple remain in the last 9 chapters of the book of Ezekiel. Copious details. What's happening? Am I just smarter than other people? No. People really don't read the book of Ezekiel. It's just 48 chapters, and they won't read it, even though they believe it's the word of Hashem. I understand why an atheist might not read it. Maybe there's a reason why a Buddhist might not read it. But why would someone who believes in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, why wouldn't they read a holy book? All Abrahamic religions believe that Ezekiel was a prophet. These weren't his own thoughts and recollections. And he wasn't just writing what he witnessed. He was inspired by Hashem. Why wouldn't someone read that? The coming of Mashiach will be announced by Elijah the prophet. That's how the Nevi'im, the prophetic segment of the Hebrew Bible, comes to a close. Explicitly, the ingathering of the exiles. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 3. The nation, the children of Israel, return back to Eretz Israel. There will be an enormous amount of conversion to Judaism. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1. These events will be preceded by a war. The nations will first bring trauma, Jacob's trouble, to the people of Israel. The world just experienced, relatively recently, the worst, bloodiest war in human history, where now we see that there are people who are pure evil. We see Jacob's trouble, the resurrection of the dead. Daniel chapter 12, verse 2. Isaiah 26, verse 19. But what is most important is that everyone will know the truth. God will be king of the whole world, and all his subjects will recognize him as such. Today, that's not the case. When the Messiah comes, everyone will know the truth. His sovereignty will be from river to the ends of the world. That's how Zechariah 9:10 ends. And if Christians spent 1/2 the time studying Zechariah 9, verse 10, as they do verse 9, they wouldn't be in the church today. Moreover, when we go back to the first century, the Christian century, the century in which the Christian religion emerged, was spawned, what we discover is the very opposite occurred. There wasn't an ingathering of the exiles in the first century. Rather, due to tremendous wars with Rome, Jews were exiled from the land. Remember what I told you about war? There's supposed to be peace. In fact, if you want to know what the Messiah is supposed to do, just look at the first century, the first Christian century, and whatever happened, it's just the opposite. Really. All you have to do is look at the Christian century and see what happened to the people of Israel and the land of Israel and the temple of Israel during the first century. That's all you need to do. What happened? And if you examine the first century, the Christian century, when all of the Christian Bible was written, what you would discover is that it is the antithesis of what the Messiah is supposed to do. It's exactly opposite, just reverse everything. So there wasn't peace, there was war, there wasn't a temple built, there was a temple destroyed. The Jews weren't returned to their land, but they were exiled from the land. The knowledge of Hashem was diminished because of the great exile and destruction. It's the very opposite. It wasn't the resurrection of the dead. Rather, there was hundreds of thousands of Jews and so many others that died during this bloody century. Now, it is true that all false religions can summon this failed claim that, my Messiah will accomplish all this in the second coming. Well, if that were the case, then my sister-in-law could be the Messiah. She didn't do anything. The second coming. The second coming is the refuge for a failed Messiah. It's the fig leaf for a false religion. There is nothing in the Hebrew Bible that says anything about the second coming. In the Christian Bible, Jesus, we are told, claims that all of it is happening now. We're told that in Mark 9 and Mark 13, and I'm quoting Mark not because it's the only book in the Christian Bible that stakes that claim out, but it's the earliest of the Gospels chronologically, that the generation will not pass, the people who are standing there will not taste death, for God comes in this full power and all these prophecies unfold. It was believed by the people of the day that this was imminent. Don't even worry about getting married or none of that. It's all happening now. Of course, it didn't happen now because it wasn't a godly religion that was emerging and had no basis in the Hebrew Bible, despite the fact that the church made that claim. So here's what I encourage people to do. Read the Hebrew Bible carefully. Know Tanakh as well as you know other things, right? And then you'll be able to immediately test whether these prophecies are unfolding. And you won't be distracted by silly arguments that, well, Joseph was rejected by his brothers, so the Messiah is supposed to be rejected. Because in truth, every failed Messiah, everyone, was rejected. All of them, people had the brains to know to reject it. Pay careful attention to the Hebrew Bible and test every and any claim in light of the Jewish scriptures. That has to be your standard. However, if you follow a different path, and that is you read the Jewish Bible in light of the Christian Bible, so then, of course, you're going to be a Christian. Then you're set to failure. But I have a feeling we're living in a very special time now, and that feeling envelops me, and that soon we will see the nations of the world coming to the God of Israel, bending the knee to him, praising him, and may we merit to see that extraordinary moment quickly in our time. Thank you. If you enjoy these programs, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא